This is Plant-Based Briefing, a vegan diet for athletes and sports people, Part 1, from ProVeg.com. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this curated content plant-based podcast, where I narrate articles on a variety of topics related to vegan and plant-based living, with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And today's article is a bit longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I'm reading Part 1 today, and tune in tomorrow for Part 2. ProVeg.com is one of the organizations I have permission to read from. They're a food awareness organization striving for a world where everyone chooses delicious and healthy food that's good for all humans, animals, and the planet. Their mission is to reduce the global consumption of animals by 50% by the year 2040. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. A vegan diet for athletes and sports people, Part 1, from ProVeg.com. Nutrition plays a key role in athletic performance. A vegan diet has numerous advantages for athletes and sports people, allowing them to optimize their results. If planned correctly, plant-based eating can provide the full range of nutrients required by an active body. A balanced diet is crucial for athletic success. Whether for endurance training, muscle building, or body toning, proper nutrition and calorie intake are key components of any successful training regime. Food supplements are not necessary for recreational sports. People who do sports in their free time have roughly the same nutritional needs as non-athletes, vegan or otherwise. Even people who exercise for up to 1 hour a day can usually compensate for the increased energy demands through regular food intake, making supplements unnecessary for this level of activity, although everyone engaging in physical exercise should ensure they're properly hydrated. Loss of fluids and minerals through perspiration. The body loses between 0.5 and 1 liter of sweat per hour of moderate exercise. In addition to water, sweat also contains minerals such as sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. The lost fluid and minerals need to be replenished after or during exercise. Consuming fruit and vegetable juices diluted with mineral water in a ratio of 1:2 or 1:3 helps replenish the loss. Frequent nutritional mistakes in athletes' diets. Sports people often make the same dietary mistakes as the general population, consuming too few complex carbohydrates, paying too little attention to the composition of fatty acids in their diet, and eating too much animal protein. A growing number of researchers in the field of sports science recommend a vegan diet to resolve these issues. Recommendations for competitive athletes. The basic recommendations of a balanced diet, as presented in the guidelines provided by our vegan food plate linked here, apply to the needs of competitive athletes as well, although they have higher nutrient requirements than the general population. Exact recommendations cannot be made since the precise nutritional needs depend on the discipline, intensity, duration, and frequency of exercise, as well as on the age and gender of the athlete. Preparing for competition also has an influence on individual requirements. The macronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and trace elements mentioned below should provide the basis of a balanced diet and play an especially important role for people engaging in physical activity. Carbohydrates improve athletic performance. Complex carbohydrates should form the foundation of vegan or vegetarian nutrition for athletes, as these nutrients are vital for the functioning of muscles as well as nerve and brain cells. Complex carbohydrates are found mainly in fruits and vegetables, as well as in whole grain products like pasta, bread, oat flakes, muesli, couscous, brown rice, etc., potatoes, and pulses. In addition, these foods contain a high proportion of dietary fiber, which prevents blood sugar levels from rising too quickly, thus ensuring stable performance. Complex carbohydrates are also beneficial for weight management as they stave off feelings of hunger. Other good sources of carbohydrates include millet and pseudo-cereals such as quinoa and amaranth. Fats bolster energy reserves. Like carbohydrates, fats are a source of energy and play an important role in athletic success. However, the dietary recommendations for fats do not vary according to the level of exercise. The share of fats in one's diet should constitute about 30 to 35% of overall calories, which means that a daily requirement of about 2,000 calories should be met with 66 grams of fat, as well as calories from other sources. The German Nutrition Society, along with researchers in the field of nutritional science, states that fats should come primarily from plant-based sources. Saturated fatty acids, contained primarily in dairy and meat products, should be replaced with polyunsaturated fatty acids. These can be found in rapeseed and walnut oil, for example. Walnuts, shredded linseeds, and chia seeds are ideal sources of fat and can easily be added to one's daily diet by adding them to smoothies or cereal. Microalgae oil is also a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids can guard against inflammatory responses in muscles and joints, and are thus especially important for people who exercise a lot. Puff pastry and fried foods should be avoided as far as possible, since they generally contain trans fatty acids, which increase the risk of fat metabolism disorders. Proteins for muscle development. Protein is used primarily to build and maintain body tissue, including muscles. Depending on the type of sport engaged in, a person's protein requirements may increase. Here are the recommendations for daily protein intake depending on activity level. If your activity level is sports as a casual hobby, protein intake should be between 0.8 and 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. For frequent endurance training, it should be 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and frequent strength training should be 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. The increased protein requirement can usually be met by food intake alone, so protein shakes and the like are generally not necessary. Along with strength training, a sufficient intake of protein-rich foods containing all essential amino acids is the basis for targeted muscle growth. It is widely recommended to consume protein immediately after strength training, as this is accompanied by a significant increase in muscle mass. New studies question this recommendation, suggesting that consuming protein within 3 hours of exercising is sufficient. Tofu, chickpeas, beans, and whole grain products are good choices for vegan sports people since they are particularly rich in protein. After a training session, it is recommended to eat protein in combination with carbohydrates, which leads to a release of insulin and has a positive effect on muscle growth due to its anabolic hormonal effect. In order to capitalize on this effect, consumption of the protein-carbohydrate meal within 2 hours of training is considered optimal. As always, individual needs need to be taken into account. You just listened to A Vegan Diet for Athletes and Sports People, Part 1 from ProVeg.com. And I'm Marian Erickson, your host. Tune in tomorrow for the second half of this article, where you'll hear more about vitamins, minerals, trace elements, calcium, excretion of zinc, things like that. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.